What if the next world war doesn't start with an explosion, but with a silent spark, a hacked satellite, a border skirmish, or a political assassination? In today's fragile global landscape, one wrong move can trigger a conflict that engulfs the planet. With nuclear arsenals ready, cyber weapons loaded, and superpowers divided, the world teeters on the edge of annihilation. In World War III, the battlefield won't be just deserts and jungles. It'll be cities, servers, economies, and ideologies. And while no country would be untouched, some would be utterly destroyed. Flattened, wiped off the map, whether due to their geography, alliances, rivalries, or internal instability. These nations stand at the crossroads of doom. Some are already boiling under tension. Others look calm on the surface but sit on a powder keg. This list isn't about who's right or wrong. It's about who's in the crosshairs if the unthinkable happens. Get ready as we count down the 10 countries most likely to be destroyed in World War III. The final country may shock you, because it might just be the one calling the shots. Number 10, Poland. Poland may seem like a stable European nation, but its location makes it a bullseye in any conflict between NATO and Russia. Bordering Belarus, Russia's close military ally, and hosting US forces, Poland is the frontline defense for Western Europe. In World War III, it would become an immediate target of Russian aggression. Missiles would rain down on Warsaw. Air bases, radar systems, and American military outposts would be among the first to fall. Poland's strategic importance also means NATO would respond quickly, turning it into a battleground between two nuclear powers. Its population centers could face mass evacuation or destruction. Historical trauma runs deep, from Nazi invasions to Soviet occupation, and this war could be its worst nightmare reborn. Supply routes through Poland would be crucial, making it a target for sabotage, drone strikes, and chemical attacks. Russia could also use Belarus as a launchpad for a ground invasion, overwhelming eastern Poland within days. The civilian death toll would be horrific. Infrastructure would collapse. And if NATO retaliates, the entire region could be caught in a radioactive crossfire. For Poland, war wouldn't be just a chapter in history, it would be the end of the book. Number 9, Japan. Japan, a technological superpower and strategic US ally, stands quietly in the shadow of growing threats. Surrounded by adversaries like China, North Korea, and Russia, it's a ticking time bomb in the Pacific. In the event of World War III, Japan's alliance with the United States would make it an automatic target, not just symbolically, but strategically. Its military bases, many of which host American forces, would be among the first to be hit. North Korea's missiles, already tested near Japanese waters, could turn into real strikes on Tokyo, Osaka, and Yokohama. China's naval expansion would aim to cut off Japan's sea routes and seize disputed territories like the Senkaku Islands. Russia, too, would look to settle scores over the Kuril Islands dispute. Japan's densely packed cities would suffer devastating casualties. Its economy, third largest in the world, could collapse under sustained attacks on infrastructure and industry. Power grids, transportation, and communication could go dark in days. Cyber warfare would cripple banking systems. If nuclear weapons are used, millions could die instantly. For a country that has already faced atomic horror, World War III could bring a second, and final, reckoning. Number 8, India. India is a rising superpower, but it sits in a powder keg of regional rivalries. With ongoing tensions against Pakistan, a volatile border dispute with China, and insurgent threats from within, India would be pulled into World War III from multiple directions. A two-front war with nuclear-armed neighbors could devastate northern and northeastern states. Cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and Kolkata could be targeted by missiles, drones, and cyber attacks. India's massive population would make evacuations nearly impossible, turning urban centers into mass casualty zones. If China launches a preemptive strike in the Himalayas, it could seize key territory and provoke a full-scale military response. Pakistan could see the chaos as an opportunity to escalate in Kashmir, dragging both countries into mutual destruction. Infrastructure like dams, power plants, and transportation hubs could be bombed or hacked, plunging the country into darkness. The threat of nuclear war over South Asia is already dangerously high. World War III could push it past the edge. Even India's strong economy wouldn't survive such a multi-pronged collapse. For a country poised for global leadership, the battlefield could become its graveyard. Number 7, Pakistan. Pakistan's strategic position makes it both a key player and a dangerous vulnerability in any global conflict. Sharing tense borders with both India and Afghanistan, and having close ties with China, Pakistan would be instantly drawn into World War III. If India and China enter the war, Pakistan would likely align with China, making it a primary target for Indian retaliation. A nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan, always a possibility, could wipe out major cities like Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad within minutes. The Kashmir conflict would explode into total war. Internally, political instability and extremist factions could rise, worsening civil chaos. U.S. drone bases in the region might also become targets if Pakistan chooses sides against the West. Economic collapse would follow, as trade routes and energy supplies are destroyed. Millions of refugees could flood into neighboring countries, creating a humanitarian nightmare. Pakistan's geography, once its strength, would now trap it between multiple fire fronts. With limited infrastructure and deep internal divides, it could collapse under pressure. World War III wouldn't just hit Pakistan from the outside, it might tear it apart from within. Number 6. Iran. Iran sits at the center of nearly every major geopolitical fault line in the world. Tensions with Israel, Saudi Arabia, and especially the United States make it one of the most likely battle zones in World War III. A war involving Iran would see massive missile exchanges in the Middle East. Israel would likely strike preemptively, targeting nuclear facilities and military bases. The U.S. might deploy forces to shut down Iran's military capabilities, leading to ground invasions or bombings. In return, Iran could block the Strait of Hormuz, choking off a third of the world's oil supply, triggering a global economic collapse. Iranian allies like Hezbollah could attack targets across the region, from Lebanon to Syria. Civilians would suffer as cities like Tehran and Isfahan face direct strikes. Infrastructure would be reduced to rubble. Iranian oil fields, its economic lifeline, would burn. In retaliation, Iran might launch cyber attacks on global financial systems. With the nation already under sanctions and civil unrest, war would finish what politics began. Iran's fall wouldn't just be military, it would be total. Number 5. South Korea. South Korea is a miracle of modern development, but it lives under the constant threat of annihilation from its northern neighbor. North Korea's nuclear arsenal, unpredictable leadership, and military-first strategy mean that war could start without warning. In World War III, South Korea would face immediate attacks on Seoul, one of the world's most densely populated capitals. Artillery, missile strikes, and special forces would target infrastructure and civilian centers. If the U.S. intervenes, as it likely would, China might back North Korea, turning the Korean peninsula into a war zone. Naval battles in the Yellow Sea, airstrikes over the DMZ, and cyber attacks on South Korean banks would paralyze the nation. Refugee flows into Japan and the South China Sea could trigger regional chaos. Economic fallout would be immense. Tech giants like Samsung and LG would collapse. Power outages, food shortages, and martial law would follow. If nuclear weapons are used, Korea could vanish from the map. A country known for innovation and culture might be remembered only for the war it couldn't avoid. Number 4. Israel. Israel is surrounded by enemies, and it knows it. Constantly on alert, with missile defense systems and mandatory military service, it's ready for war, but that doesn't mean it can survive a global one. In World War III, Iran, Hezbollah, and other hostile forces could launch coordinated attacks. Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa would be prime targets. Missile barrages, drone strikes, and cyber warfare could overwhelm even Israel's advanced defense systems. The Gaza conflict would expand, with Hamas joining the fray. The West Bank could erupt in rebellion. If nuclear-armed nations join the attack, Israel's survival would hang by a thread. Retaliation would be swift and deadly, but the damage would be catastrophic. Religious and historical sites could be destroyed. Civilian casualties would be in the tens of thousands. The US and Europe might step in, or they might not. In a war this massive, no alliances are guaranteed. Israel has always fought to exist. In World War III, it might have to fight for that existence one last time. Number 3. Taiwan. Taiwan is the red line. The island China claims, the West supports, and the world watches. In World War III, Taiwan would be among the first to fall, and the bloodiest battles would be fought across its mountains and cities. China would launch a full-scale invasion, naval fleets surrounding the island, fighter jets bombing runways, and cyber attacks disabling communication. The US might defend Taiwan, or hesitate, causing panic in the Pacific. Australia, Japan, and others could join, turning the South China Sea into an ocean of fire. Taipei would be bombed. Ports would be seized. The economy, one of the most vital in global tech, would collapse. Semiconductor factories, the beating heart of modern electronics, would be destroyed or captured. Refugees would have nowhere to go. Taiwan's fall would signal the start of something far worse, a permanent shift in global power. For the people of Taiwan, it would be more than occupation, it would be erasure. Number 2, Ukraine. Ukraine has already become the heart of modern warfare, a tragic battlefield between Russia's ambitions and the West's support. In World War III, it would become a frontline again, but this time on a scale never seen before. Russian forces would push deep, targeting Kiev, Lviv, and the Black Sea ports. NATO might intervene directly, escalating to full war. Entire towns could be erased. Russia's use of hypersonic missiles and thermobaric bombs could flatten cities in seconds. Ukraine's infrastructure, already battered, would collapse completely. The agricultural heartland of Europe would burn. Refugees would flood into neighboring nations, overwhelming Europe. If tactical nuclear weapons are used, parts of Ukraine could become permanently uninhabitable. It would no longer be a war for territory, it would be a war for survival. For Ukraine, World War III could mean the total annihilation of its statehood. Number 1, United States of America. The most powerful country in the world is also the most targeted. The United States, with its global military bases, alliances, and enemies, would be in the center of World War III. Cyber attacks would strike first, shutting down power grids, banks, airports. Then missiles would follow. Major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. could be reduced to ashes. China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran all have reasons and capabilities to strike. U.S. military bases abroad would be bombed. Naval fleets would be attacked in the Pacific and Atlantic. Internally, civil unrest, economic collapse, and mass panic would erupt. The dollar would crash. Martial law might be declared. Even America's nuclear arsenal wouldn't guarantee survival. Retaliation might destroy the world. The country that once shaped global history could become history itself. In World War III, no one wins, but America could lose more than most. World War III isn't just a chapter in a history book waiting to be written. It's a future we still have the power to prevent. These 10 countries stand at the edge of devastation not because of their weakness, but because of where they stand in the global chessboard of power, rivalry, and pride. But make no mistake, in a nuclear age, no country truly wins. The first missile may hit a battlefield, but the last will strike a home, a school, a hospital. What begins with leaders in suits could end with generations buried in silence. So as tensions rise and superpowers flex, ask yourself, is this the legacy we want to leave behind? A world in ashes, or a future we fought to protect before it was too late? If this video opened your eyes, don't just watch, share it. Let the world remember what's truly at stake. Because the war we prevent is always more powerful than the one we fight.